Hey, good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? All right, my name is Ben. I'm representing L-Charge. I'm our Vice President of Market Development. Had the real pleasure of collaborating with AEG over the really 6-month period to end this year. Feature one of our most recent deployments that I'm most excited about because it features trucks. A lot of our initial deployments for off-grid fast charging have been with kind of ride-hail fleets. In other parts of the country, we have one that we've been able to showcase with the support of AEG right here in Brooklyn with Manhattan Beer Distributors, which I'm happy to talk more about and will highlight in describing my challenge for this subject. So what we're really looking at is an opportunity to support EV fleets here and elsewhere, and I think New York City is a really great microcosm for this conversation because it's sort of it's all of the issues we see nationally, but sort of souped up or exacerbated, right? So issues around grid availability, infrastructure, interconnection, like a lot of the themes that were highlighted in the sort of word cloud, nowhere are they more pronounced than right here in New York City. Fleets are really requiring responsive solutions that they can scale and that aren't going to tilt the economics of fleet electrification into the red. And that's going to be more and more important as we're dealing with vehicle incentive programs, maybe EPA or FTA incentives need to be redeemed, right? So we're entering an interesting phase politically where there are a lot of vehicle incentive programs that were available before, aren't available anymore, so that means either fleets are left needing to take delivery of vehicles that have already been guaranteed funding and need to figure out a fast infrastructure strategy to support those, or like we're seeing in New York State, they're relaunching the state programs that are picking up the slack from the federal government, but those funds, they're seeing a lot of latent demand, so they're getting snapped up really quickly, and interested fleets, be it on a truck or school bus or other types of fleet entities, they're needing to put in their demand and put forward really compelling applications really quickly, and then they're left with the same issue, right? You need to take delivery of your vehicles, maybe even before you and your utility are prepared to support that with an infrastructure strategy. So these infrastructure limitations are becoming not just binding because we're also dealing with AI and server farms and other sorts of load growth, but because we're dealing with a function of when vehicle funding is actually being delivered. There's high upfront uncertain operating costs when it comes to traditional infrastructure solutions as well. So we function much of the time as an interim solution or a bridge to wires, but more and more we're also being considered as an indefinite option to support when fleets don't want to invest in the upfront capital that's required to make fleet electrification in the traditional sense, grid-tied fast charging, come about. A lot of fleets are also seeing that there's a lot of volatility introduced by demand charges. And if they're used to dealing with their electric utility from managing building loads, they're not always prepared to handle the added implications of adding EV loads into that mix and what that will do to peak demand charges that they're paying. They're also facing unpredictable scalability, and this is maybe a theme that I heard Peg talking about this morning, where you sort of have, in some cases, one bite at the apple to size what your new electric service is going to be. So if you're making an upgrade request, you need to know, is that upgrade going to be sufficient for the entire extent of EV load and growth that I'm anticipating? So these are constraints that we see that are actually inhibiting EV uptake right now in the most confident way that L-Charge really exists to help chip away at. So our challenge in launching a viable and reliable off-grid charging solution is to find some of these intersections where there's opportunity. And so for purposes of today's conversation, I really want to localize that within the context of New York City. Our system is essentially portable, it's off-grid, it runs on-site generation from natural gas. And we have an all-in-one charging trailer that pairs generation with fast charging at 180 kilowatts per unit. So first and foremost is identifying where is there a charging need. And I think if we try to localize this within responsible entities and partners and collaborators, we can look to our Clean Cities Coalition. I saw Joy here before. as well as entities that are offering the vehicle incentive programs, NYSERDA, New York City DOT. This is going to be a lot of self-sorting of the fleets who are raising their hands saying, yes, we're interested in the operational benefits, the social responsibility benefits of EVs, whatever the value proposition may be. They're already raising their hands, and we know that they're going to need a viable charging strategy. So that's maybe the outer envelope of who we can target. Grid constraints are then the next kind of level to be looking at. If it's a small deployment of maybe 1 or 2 vehicles, light duty, medium duty, that may fit within the headroom that a fleet has in their service panel, right? They may not need an upgrade, and that's terrific. Traditional infrastructure solutions will apply. For larger projects or ones where your service panel is already maxed out, as we all know, we've all been told for years, talk to your utility first, right? But maybe your utility is saying, we're gonna need a minimum of 18 to 24 months to fulfill that upgrade request. So where these grid constraints apply, that's where we need to be thinking maybe outside the box about how do we fulfill those electrification goals in a way above and beyond what the traditional approach can offer. And for us, due to the unique kind of blend of herbs and spices that the L-Charge system constitutes, I would actually say gas supply as a maybe unlikely element in the mix, but really practical and operationally elegant component to what we can optimize for here. So we can look to our 2 gas utilities throughout the city, Con Ed and National Grid, to try to figure out where is there existing natural gas supply on site to provide maybe building heat. We can actually work with an existing gas hookup, which is likely being underutilized, to power our system, provide continuous fuel supply, and run an electric vehicle charging operation on the strength of that already in place and underutilized infrastructure. And so you have these kind of intersections where you'll down select the universe of, the sweet spot size with each successive concentric circle, but you begin to identify who does this solution really work for and who can it deploy with really quickly and cost effectively, the more of these boxes we check. So in terms of the essential opportunity here is how can we get as many vehicles away from petroleum as quickly as we can? Our system, it runs on natural gas, but even using conventional natural gas, we're going to cut GHGs per mile compared to diesel by at least 45%. So that's really compelling right there and gets us pointed in the right direction very definitively. We have options to integrate RNG, flare gas, other cleaner fuel pathways. We're also working more in the R&D stages on hydrogen integration that can allow us to be a more holistic part of the zero emission environment. But this is a way for us to make sure that we're getting away from diesel vehicles as quickly as possible, supporting electrification irrespective of when the utility system and traditional power players are ready to provide the energy to support those vehicles. So our challenge statement is regarding citywide fleet electrification. A critical obstacle to collectively overcome in 12 months is identifying where off-grid charging solutions make sense as a bridge to wires, so that we can basically bring forward the time where your EVs that you maybe you receive funding for these, maybe you just see other operational reasons why you've invested in electrification, you can realize those benefits much sooner than you would be if you allowed the traditional solutions to be your rate limiting step. Thank you very much.